Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sass and the Beard. We are so excited that you have decided to join our show this evening and this week. Kristen, it's good to see you.
It's so good to see you. It feels like it's been a lot longer than it has been, but I think it's because we're in a new space.
Yes. Well, this new space, so for all of you who are not aware, we record at the Offbeat Times studio, and that studio has physically moved into a new location, and so that's where we are right now. So, barring any technical difficulties, we should be good.
Yeah, this is our first time, so we never quite know what's going to happen. Like, it could go great. If it goes great, it's probably not because of us.
Right, oh, definitely
if it goes
not.
bad, it probably is because of us. Like,
Honestly,
that's just the reality.
What I have understood, it mostly has to do with the internet connection. So.
I'm still gonna blame you, no matter what happens. Like, I mean, just for real.
Can we just get fiber everywhere?
I know, right? But you know, the one thing that has remained consistent is we are caffeinated by Retro Roast Coffee.
Thank you.
I am having this week one of their summer menu, the coconut cream pie. It is so darn good, and I think it's going to keep me up tonight to get a bunch of work done, because I need to, like, do you ever do this where you, like, want to work when nobody's going to text you, like, nobody's going to bother you? I guess maybe your work is different because you're, like, more customer oriented,
right?
Whereas, like, I'm looking at spreadsheets, and so I want to be alone and uninterrupted.
See, I think that if I had to look at spreadsheets, I shouldn't do it at nighttime because I would fall asleep. I mean, part of my job is looking at spreadsheets, but just like one or two, not like consecutive, just Excel lines over and over. So I think it would be a lot harder for me to do that. There definitely needs to be an audiobook or a podcast involved. So if you're stuck looking at spreadsheets, this is our podcast.
Like, this is it. Yeah, listen to this while you look at your spreadsheet.
We'll keep you awake for
and
sure.
Hopefully, and we'll talk about all of the like drama that's happening in local and state politics, which mostly involves the casino,
right?
But other things too.
Yes.
Like, we're talking about the upcoming special session.
Trash. It involves trash a lot.
It
of
always
times.
Involves trash, whether that is
trash talk,
literal or
actual
figurative trash. It also involves speakers. We got the fan going in here, so that's okay. That's all right. Listen, I need air. That's why. But yeah, so there's been a lot happening with the casino. Last week we didn't do the show. I think you caught the virus that was going around to everybody.
There was a stomach virus. Yes.
I was in Atlanta doing work stuff, hearing about all the incredible work of organizations in the South, which was amazing. And while I was there, we filed a lawsuit in federal court, challenging some restrictive voter registration rules.
Okay.
That make it harder to vote. We actually ended up with a plaintiff from Pope County, because the Pope County clerk took it on herself to start rejecting voter registrations.
Oh, how nice!
Throughout the process, yeah.
Yes, because of the
because the
non-wet signatures.
Even when the Secretary of State and the Attorney General were saying you should accept these, she still just chose to refuse them and reject them. So one of the plaintiffs actually is from Pope County, but the Pope County clerk is not one of the plaintiffs one of the defendants in the case, and so we are working on that. I can't really talk about it a lot because it's an ongoing litigation,
right.
but I'm proud. I'm proud of it. Proud that we're doing it and that we're standing up for Arkansas voters, because
it's work that needs to be done.
Yeah, and it's like, that's why we're here too, is to make sure people know what's happening in the local community and can make their voice heard on issues that matter to them, which can be different for everybody. But I feel like a lot of times when we get in here and we get to talk about local issues like streets and drainage and city parks, and even now this casino has become a local issue, right? Over the last few years. And so I think there's just a lot of value in coming to talk about this stuff, because we're going into an election season where I think a lot of people don't feel that motivated, don't feel that excited about the candidates at the top of the ticket.
Yeah, the octogenarians, number 2.
I like to call it good grandpa versus bad grandpa.
Yeah, right. Which one is which?
I think we all know.
Yeah.
But
it's okay.
So that's all been going on. We should also talk about, one thing that didn't make our agenda, but that we should talk about at the end, thinking of this with local elections, is the Republican State Convention Republican State Party held their convention over the weekend and closed.
Did the Democrats?
So did the Democrats, but the Republicans moved to close their primaries moving forward, which will have an impact on our local elections.
What?
Oh, you didn't know about this?
No.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about this later. We'll talk about this later in the show. But first,
well, how am I going to vote for my?
We'll talk about it. First, though, let's start with the casino. All right.
I'm not happy about that.
I'm sorry, I surprised you with that. I thought you knew.
I'm actually really angry about that.
Do you want to start with that, or do you want to start with the casino?
No, I probably should cool off a little bit.
It's a very weird situation, but you should follow my Twitter so that you can keep up with it.
I'm boycotting X. Yes.
Yeah, I typically am too, but I just started doing it recently for a thing. I don't know. Anyways. Anyway, so let's talk about the casino.
Yeah.
Last week, while you were gone, the quorum court met to consider to hear from Cherokee Nation,
right?
Legends Resort, about their proposal.
Yes,
and then also to consider a resolution in support of Gulfside Casino.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Lane Scott presented a resolution to the rest of the JPs and to Judge Cross it's not writing a letter of support for it's
a resolution of support from the quorum court.
Similarly the same as if the judge wrote a letter.
Right.
This is the quorum court's version of that for support of Gulfside Casino. And we've been covering that for a while, and it failed 7-5, if I remember correctly. Which for those that support Legends, that was a good thing,
right? But then we saw it's kind of crazy in that meeting to see that anti-casino quorum court members were like
all of a
pushing
sudden,
to support a casino.
All of a sudden,
right? Like what is happening here? The one thing I kind of did hate about the situation is that Russellville is still not a part of the economic development agreement, the city of Russellville, and they talked a little bit about the fact that could be amended, and things are moving forward in the consideration of potentially annexing them with by their consent, things like that. But it does kind of make me sad to not see the same money in there for Russellville, the city of Russellville, as there is for everyone else, when we know that the voters here flipped those seats.
Well, not only that, we're going to be the ones, for the most part, that the emergency services are going to come out of Russellville. The if annexed, all of that, all of the general fund money that is necessary to pay for employees, that extra police officers, firefighters, all of that is going to come from that facility and that section of the city. But I have a different take on it. I am upset that we are not involved in that money.
Right.
However, Legends has been ever gracious in their dealings with the city of Russellville, especially since new people have been elected that aren't listen, whether you are pro or not pro casino,
pro or against,
yes,
anti, whatever.
Yes. The whole point of it is this thing is coming, and we need to be there to justify the decision and to say well, this is what we want. This is the type of facility we want to make sure we're going to get. This is the whatever money goes into it, like if we're going to be a partner, partners have to work together. And whether we're happy about the situation or not. So, in my opinion, if they will self-annex, we're going to get that money. No other city is going to get that money.
The tax revenue.
Right. And so I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, the other cities in the county deserve economic development funds as well.
Yes.
And so the city of Russellville is going to get its economic development funding from the casino. It will just be through regular tax revenue. So I'm okay with it. Because I feel like the Gulfside proposal was like a pie in the sky kind of thing. Like, what is everything we can put in there that was kind of the only thing that wasn't there was the economic development fund to Russellville.
For me, the Russellville issue is not. It doesn't change where I stand because I think that like long term, Legends is still the better partner. But it does, it reminds me again why local elections are so
consequences,
important. Because of one or two elected officials at the local level, Russellville will miss out on millions of dollars. And that's why it matters. You know what I mean? Like, that's why we have to be informed on these local issues. That's the whole reason we do this show, is to pay attention to what's happening.
Right. Absolutely. And it's mostly not even for any, I feel like, moral stance aside, most of it is just pettiness. Yeah. So because of a couple of people's petty grievances.
Yes.
There are services that will not be able to be provided within the city of Russellville. Or if we do provide them, we will have to work hard to find the money somewhere else. And that, to me, really just, grinds my gears.
Yeah, we're getting a couple of comments about issues with the connection. We're going to do the best we can here and then review it after. And so if we do have some issues, we'll correct for next week. This is kind of part of the joys and trials of local, production, of coming and doing this stuff and trying to bring this to the community
when we
as
places, these are all the growing pains. So thank you all for continuing to watch. And
if you're watching, let us know though, is the connection issue with the video or with the sound? Please let us know in the comments. If I guess if it's the sound, we won't find out. But if it's the video, you can let us know. If it is the video, then you're not missing out on much anyway, because I look rough as hell today. And so you can just, listen along and save yourself the pain.
So we had mentioned things like the Republican Party changing the way they want to do their primaries. And we were talking about election stuff. Are we ready to move on from the casino to talk about those other things?
So today, this is important. No, we're not ready to move on. So kind of at the last hour, we saw Gulfside roll in and go ahead and apply.
In the middle of the night.
At the very last minute, go in and apply for a license. There's like a $250,000 application fee, but they did it. And then today, the Arkansas Racing Commission met in their regular monthly meeting. They officially recognized the closure of the application period and the beginning of the scoring and evaluation period.
Right.
And when they did that, they recognized in the meeting that only one applicant had provided the letter of support.
Right.
Right. And so they've hired a consultant to score and evaluate operators. You could definitely tell that the attorney in the room was being very thoughtful of all of the details and all of the potential for litigation. Like at one point, one of the committee members said they made a motion for Cherokee Nation business, and she paused and was like, "No, you need to go back, redo the motion for Cherokee Nation entertainment so that we don't run into this in court."
Right.
And so they did. It's great to see them really following it by the book. And so so that happened today. They did decide, they voted to only forward Legends, Cherokee Nation on to the consultant for consideration, because under Amendment 100, if the application is incomplete, they are not able...
It can't be considered.
Yeah. Right, it can't be considered. It can't be scored.
Yeah.
Now, I think probably the reason that Gulfside went ahead and applied and put that $250,000 on the line is because if they don't really have much standing moving forward.
Right. They have no
because there's nothing like they didn't
yeah.
get rejected. There's no harm to
Right.
them. There's nothing
Yeah.
to litigate. And so I think we will continue to see litigation out of this. Like I think we're going to continue to see them try to appeal this decision and things like that, whatever form that may take. We also still have the petition going
right,
around.
for the statewide ballot title.
Yes, the deadline for signatures on that is July 5th. We should find out by mid-July if they're moving into a cure period or if they, we may know on July 5th, like if they don't submit.
If they legally acquired enough signatures.
Right. And honestly, I'll tell you, I feel for him because I really think that the legislature in the last session, when they changed the rules from a minimum of 15 counties to 50, I think they killed ballot initiatives in Arkansas, and I think it was intentional. I'll be shocked if we see anybody get on the ballot this year. That's my prediction. I don't think we're going to see any of the citizen initiatives get on the ballot,
Right?
Because of this 50 county requirement, which is really unfortunate. The legislature has tried to restrict the ballot initiative process for the last couple of election cycles through constitutional amendments that go to the vote of the people,
Right?
And the people have consistently rejected them. And so they just, found a loophole to change the rules themselves.
Do you remember, like 20 years or so ago, like the reason that we're seeing a lot more statewide have seen a lot more statewide initiative ballots over the last 20 years is because the state legislature killed the local ballot initiative around the time of the wet dry issue, where it went from like 38% of the signatures, and the statewide, that was for the local county decision, and then the statewide was so much bang for your
Lower,
buck.
yeah.
Like so you could reach a larger portion of the people for less money.
Yeah, no, it
And-
only applies to, like that 38% only applies to the wet dry
Well, but
issue.
that's my point. Like we're going to start. I think that was a decision that was made that kind of killed it killed the citizen initiatives around an issue, and I think we're seeing that repeated over the statewide. Because there are groups all across the state that are trying to decrease citizen.
Oh yeah.
you
Well,
know.
there's not groups so much as it's the legislature.
Right.
The legislature prefers to kind of keep that power to themselves, where they make all the rules, they make all the laws. They're the only
Right.
ones that refer out constitutional amendments. Because the fact is that Arkansas really tends to like progressive policy. They just don't like progressive politicians.
Right. Yeah. If you don't
right?
if you're not voting for the person,
And so, like medical marijuana,
they vote
minimum
for the
wage,
progressive every time.
yeah, things like that, or casino, like those are things that are very progressive issues that we consistently vote for in Arkansas. But if they can eliminate the ballot initiative process, then either through just completely destroying it, or through making the hurdles so high that you can't
Right.
get there. I can tell you, in the time that I've been working ballot initiatives in the last 6 years, the cost of signature collection has gone from, because of all the different restrictions and loopholes and issues, 50 counties, you can't hire people from out of state, like all
Right.
of these things. It's gone from costing about $200,000 to get an issue on the ballot to now costing $3 to $5 million.
Right. Yeah.
And you still might not get it on
Right.
the ballot. So
Which
yeah,
is
it is.
insane. What citizen-led initiative is going to
Like,
be
that's not
in
citizen-led.
Arkansas is going to be able to raise enough money?
Well, that's the thing.
You
Is like
know.
what they've done is they've created these like, the intention is to go like, hey, we want to make sure that this is representative of the whole state or whatever. Like whatever, the intention may still be okay, but what has happened because of what they've done, really this has gone on since like 2010. They have made it so hard that the expense has now become that you can't get an initiative on the ballot through a citizen and a real, truly citizen-led initiative.
Unless you're working for some huge lobby group.
Well, that's the thing. Now it's not
that-
citizen-led; it's
yeah.
lobbyist-led. It's dark money-led. It's private interest-led. Like that's what we see. That's what we saw with the medical marijuana initiative in the last election cycle.
Why it wasn't
Oh, that was the
positive
recreational,
for the,
yeah.
it was. That's why it wasn't positive for the people,
Because it was only in the
there's
interest
four
of the
companies
corporations,
that want
yes.
to get all of the the business, And like, I'm so sick and tired of this like money and politics issue where we know where the money's coming from, but we don't know where the money's coming from. We have no way to police the money and where it's coming from. And then when you get to these like legislative issues that are being put on ballots, those are also lobby led. You know, because this lobby group that funded this person's campaign, and they're like here, and then they don't have any knowledge about it. Just like the voucher situation in Texas is coming here. It's the same group.
Oh, like, totally.
And they're
all using the same playbook.
Like they found time and time again that all across the country, between 70 to 90% of the people benefiting from these vouchers are like high income households, not lower income students, not students that might need access to a better schooling opportunity, but literally money is robbing the poor to pay the rich.
Well, and that's the thing that you see. It's not even robbing the poor so much as it's robbing the middle class, right? Like the working middle class, the lower middle class, like people who are working and trying to give their kids a leg up that they didn't have. But it also causes us, like we see it right now in Russellville. How many private schools did we have here?
Very
Pre-learns.
Few. 1, 2, maybe.
1, 2. We had the little Christian school and St. John's Catholic School, which are both excellent private schools, do great job. But now we have like 2 new
like the Baptist schools. Church is doing one.
Like everybody wants to do one now because they can get state funding for it. And, you know, I get it. But like, anyways, look, let's not get off on Learns. Because that's too much. Let's talk about
I'm just sad and angry, and I can't do shit about it.
But let's stay on this topic of robbing the middle class and the poor, because we are about to roll into a special legislative session that will lower the top income tax and lower for individuals and for corporations, right? And here's the problem in Arkansas as I see it. Like, right, like nobody wants to pay taxes. Taxes are terrible.
No.
Right? Like everybody hates paying taxes.
Yeah, for sure.
I get it. Like
But like we all have to pay them.
Right.
You know? Like that's the benefit, because it's for the good of our society that we have money to use to have things like fire trucks and police cars
clean water
and clean water and roads to drive on and infrastructure.
Well, and the
bridges that aren't falling apart.
But here's the scam. Here's the scam that's happening at the state legislature right now around these tax cuts, because I don't think people pick up on this. Is the way Arkansas's tax structure is situated is we have all these like tax bracket levels, but they're really low. And then once you hit kind of like the middle class, then you're all lumped into everybody from like 80 grand. I don't have the exact number in front of me, so I'm just, you know.
Right.
But like it depends on individual and family, you know, household income and all that. But everybody up, so like if you're a nurse, you're, you know, a 2-income household, you're a small business owner, you're, you know, have moved up in your job to where you're doing okay finally. All that. Yeah. Well, that's great. Like, and you want a tax break, totally makes sense. The problem with it is in Arkansas is we're all lumped in together. Once you hit the middle class, we're lumped in with the billionaires, right? Everybody up. Like everybody has the same tax bracket unless you make very little income.
Or you're a corporation.
That makes a lot of money. But for individuals especially, and for corporations, like, you know, you're not getting the tax break as a small business owner. It's going to a much higher level, because even if you do land in the same tax bracket and you are getting the same tax break, what we're getting is pennies out of that. You know, taking us from 5.1 to 4.9 is going to give me maybe $20 in my pocket over the course of a year.
Yeah.
But if I make $1 billion a year, $1 million a year, like very few people in Arkansas, but enough that they get a huge break out of it, a huge amount of money. You know, we're talking $500 million. And I go through South Arkansas, especially. I drive in the Delta for my job, and I see communities that literally don't have safe drinking water in their homes because the infrastructure is so bad. The pipes are busting in the ground. They're full of lead. They're not safe. I live over in Dardanelle. I don't drink the drink the tap water over there. We don't consume it. We use it for bathing, and that's it, because we get notices so often that there have been contamination, and we don't get the notice until 4 weeks after it's happened. Mm-hmm. So, you know what I mean? And that's happening all over the state. I've gone to communities in South Arkansas, and literally the potholes in the road are so big that they take barrels, like, traffic barrels, and put them in the potholes so that you won't drive your car off in them.
Right.
And that's all they do. Right. And so, I don't think that billionaires need a tax break when people don't have water, when people don't have roads, when people don't have emergency services. When
they already have enough loopholes.
When they don't have opportunity. Yeah. There's not employment. There's not new business coming in. That's what our tax dollars are supposed to go to. They're supposed to go to infrastructure, education, public health, public safety, economic development. Not we pay those in because we want our state to be better, because we want our communities to be stronger, not because we want them to trickle it up to the top.
Well, and what frustrates me about that whole situation is literally over 90% of Arkansas workers are employed by small businesses. So businesses with 75 employees or less. 90%. So, but we're not giving them. So the group that employs less than 10% of workers is getting Can we just have a class war already and get over all of this? I'm not necessarily advocating for
not
war.
Not an actual war, but yeah.
But I feel if you just take the party politics aside, there's a couple of things that we could all advocate for that would make everyone's lives better, but they have pitted us against each other because whatever issue that pisses you off, but the real issues, they're all just sitting back cashing in and laughing at us because we're mad about this side or that side issue. And instead of us just going home and privately thinking, I'm not gay, so I don't want to get gay married, or I want to have kids and not have an abortion. Instead, we're yelling about it, and the whole time they're making billions of dollars in our tax money.
And the thing I would argue where I think that the progressive side really goes wrong is that we spend a lot of time talking about gay marriage and abortion and reproductive rights and all of these things that are important issues.
Yes, absolutely.
But we don't spend enough time talking about the fact that you can graduate college and you still can't find a job.
Yeah.
The fact that you come out of college with debt. You're never going to, the young people today don't even think that buying a house is a possibility. No. We're not addressing those things. And those are the things that I think people want to see coming from their government, right?
Absolutely. What are we doing? I had a message from a lady today that was talking about how one of the apartment complexes in town is going to stop taking Section 8 money. And so that could potentially cause a breakdown in housing for low-income people.
Everybody says the connection's so bad.
And it will...
Do we want to try to step out?
Well, it's going to save after the...
Okay, okay.
And so...
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. Well, and so, in that sense, that's a major issue. And what is the city of Russellville doing about housing? Well, the city of Russellville is not going to build houses, but one of the things that we have done is we have clarified our permitting process, and we have streamlined the permitting process. We have made sure that the rules are clear and concise. We've spent the last 2 years cleaning up these, and if you try to build a house in Bentonville, you're going to have a much easier time in Russellville because there are less restrictions.
Yeah.
But still safe restrictions upon living and those kind of things. So come and invest in property in Russellville to build homes. That's what we are encouraging. That's all we can do as a city from a sense of, because we can't just build apartment complexes.
No.
And I think we've seen fruit in that as there's been two really nice apartment complex companies just build. There are houses being built all over the city.
Yeah.
Like, do those places accept Section 8? I don't know.
Right.
But we need to work further to make sure
Yeah.
that there are more
For sure.
opportunities.
For sure.
So we can save the world all day, all night long, or talk about saving the world all night long.
So let's talk about where it's all burning down. The Republican convention.
Yeah, okay. So,
Do you want me to tell you what happened?
well, first, let's just explain that for right now. A lot of people get confused about this because every election season. So, like, when you go to vote in November, you will not be able to vote in some areas for your justice of the peace because that has already been decided within the primary. And so, in the primary, the justice of the peace, the county officials are partisan races. And a lot of times, there's only one side represented. So because of that, our state has provided open primaries, or the parties have agreed to have open primaries, so that whether you are Democrat or Republican, you can vote on either ticket, so that you have
You
the
just have to
option.
pick one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So
Well,
that you
and a
have
lot
the
of the
option.
reason for that is that about 88% of the state is registered as optional,
Right.
or
Or
independent,
independent,
which just means
yeah.
usually it means there is no independent. So
They bounce around.
You get listed as optional if you leave the part when you register
Leave
to
it
vote.
blank.
If you leave it blank, or if you enter your name. And out of the 1.76 million voters on the file right now, about 1.5 million of them are optional. Right. So
Wow,
yes, only about
that's
7.
insane.
Only about 7% of the voting population is registered as a Republican, 7.5%. And so it's going to be really interesting.
Wow.
Yes, look, I love numbers.
Are
And
they-
that's
they're just
and
too-
that's based on the June 1st voter file.
Okay.
Like, that is the most recent information. So what we see here is, like you said, primary elections. You know, when you go to the general election in November, take the presidential race, for example, is there may be a lot of Democrats who want to be the Democrat nominee. There may be a lot of Republicans who want to be the Republican nominee, but only one will be elected and sent to the
represent.
general
Yeah.
election in November on that ballot.
Yeah.
But in like March or May, depending on the year in Arkansas, we do these primary elections. And for, like you said, for us, our state legislature, our county judge, our quorum court, a lot of these elections are partisan elections, and they're elected at the local level. You know, for me, like this year, I mean, I think actually this year, I think I might have voted on a Democratic ticket. I can't remember. Maybe I did. I usually do a Republican ticket because my
Right,
justice
same.
of the peace and
Same.
my like.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, now moving forward, if you are not registered as a Republican, you will not be able to vote in those primary elections beginning in 2026.
But if only less than 8% of all voters are registered, that just seems like a very bad idea for them, because they're just not going to get. They're not going to be able. Well, I mean, they don't care anyway, but they're not going to be able to inform enough people to get them to change their registration to register as Republicans.
I think it's cute that you think that's what they
No,
want.
that's what I'm saying. Like, they don't care. They don't want more people to vote.
Well, what we saw happen at the convention was kind of this, like, almost like a coup from these really. There's a real divide in the Republican Party that's happening between, like, more moderate, kind of old school Reagan Republicans and, like,
the right
Trump,
nut jobs.
the more, Trump
Yeah.
centered Republican. I'm
Like
trying to
the
be nice about
Christian
it.
nationalists.
I'm trying to be cool about it. And so these groups that do tend to be a little more.
What is that show where the women wear the red outfits and they'll have
Handmaid's Tale,
the
yeah.
Handmaid's Tale party? Okay,
Right.
yeah.
They're in Saline County.
Okay.
And so, anyways, they kind of like had a coup at the convention and took over temporarily.
Oh, Lord.
And ran this rule. They tried to run this through last year at their convention, or maybe 2 years ago, and it didn't go. But this year they got it through. And the argument has been, from what I've seen, is like, well, we don't like that Democrats cross over to vote Republican in Republican
Because we
primaries.
don't want them to get to choose their.
Well, a lot of what happens to Republican candidates in a primary, especially, in Arkansas. Now, and if you go into a Democrat state, the same thing is happening to
I'm sure.
Democrats
Yes,
in
absolutely.
their primaries.
Yeah.
This is how primaries work,
What is
right?
it? Total power corrupts totally, or whatever.
In primaries,
absolute power.
You're likely to see someone who's more moderate get pushed out by someone who's more extreme.
Yes.
And that's true on either side of the aisle,
Yes.
right? Someone who's further to the left or further to the right is more likely to push out somebody who's more moderate towards the center, right? And so that is what we're likely to see. And that's why this is happening, is because there have been a lot of more moderate conservative Republicans that have been pushing back about LEARNs and about some of the things that are happening in the state right now. And people who are, more extreme want to take over and shut that down. And so, I feel like it's something that it happened on the left earlier, like our kind of more extreme wing started that push a few years ago, but now the Republicans are seeing it happen on their side. And it is going to be interesting to see how it plays out in a state where we don't have closed primaries on both sides. Only one side will have a closed primary, potentially. There is a state law that has to be adjusted. And the other side would potentially have an open primary, and that would be a very interesting situation because you'll end up seeing whether people are willing to sign on and conform to this more extreme ideology, or whether they'll be like, I'm going to go with something that maybe I don't agree with everything as much, but it's my only option because
Right,
I can't
I'm
vote
not
in this
to be
one.
part of that. Yeah.
Well, or because, I assume it's like your address, you can't change your address the last 4 days of voting. I could be wrong because I haven't double checked, but I would assume that your party affiliation may be the same. I would think you can't just walk in to vote
it
and
has to
change
be
it right
certain,
then.
like you could do it during early voting.
Right, but up to 4 days. And most people vote on election day.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
people walk in and they go, hey, I want a Republican ballot, and they go, nope, sorry, you can only have a Democrat ballot or a nonpartisan ballot, either people are going to not vote, walk away, be like, I'm not doing that, or they're going to move over to the other side. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out because the Democrats, registered Democrats in Arkansas, make up about 4% of the voting population. So like the actual crossover is basically non-existent. I mean, it's a few hundred votes in the whole state. But that's the decision they made. It was kind of surprising. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out next cycle. But in this November,
Just shows how many people don't actually vote. Like the largest voting demographic in the state of Arkansas is not non-voters. Like
that's not true. It's not non-voters. Actually, I was really encouraged to see today. I was running numbers on some stuff, and in 2020, Arkansas was rated as one of the worst states in the nation for voter registration and voter participation. I think we were actually 50th. And since then, since the January 2021 to now, we've had 350,000 people register to vote, and,
Way to go,
and
Kristen.
large portion of them have been people who are 18 to 29 years
Yeah.
old. And so, I do feel like a lot of hope for Arkansas and that people are waking up and paying attention, but it is it's a painful process
we
to
just
get
have
there.
to survive the Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
It's going to be really.
Except, listen, we will not be wearing the red dresses. We will be wearing those
no.
ugly ass floral Sarah Sanders dresses.
Razorback red.
No,
The
no,
Razorbacks are
no.
red.
Listen, Sarah Sanders is setting the style. I don't know if you've seen. It's going to be.
The moo dresses.
It's giving Little House on the Prairie.
God.
That's what we'll be doing in Arkansas. The floral version.
Not me and my house will not be
But
doing that.
listen, when the Handmaid's Tale comes for us, they will dress us in floral prairie dresses.
I'm gonna put my foot down in my house on that. No floral prairie dresses. I mean,
All right. Well, nobody can hear us, so there's no questions.
One thing we're talking about election, and then we can we don't have a whole lot more to talk about. So, Eric Westcott, city council member, made an announcement a couple of weeks ago via the Courier that he is not seeking re-election.
When is he up?
This
cycle.
This cycle, yeah. So Ward 3, it makes me very sad.
Oh,
Now,
oh my God. So
now,
sad.
He is not upset. he is not. I spoke to him a long time about it last night after the agenda.
He has been an
meeting.
excellent finance chairperson, especially.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm upset about is that somebody's going to have to learn to do all that stuff.
Because he's done it incredibly well for a long time. I'm really sad to hear that, but he's put in his time. He's been a really good public servant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something I've been talking about lately. Like I went and spoke to a group of high school students. Is about like I really feel like we need less politicians and more public servants.
Yes, 100%.
And Eric, one thing I can say about him is he is a public servant.
He really does. And he said to me last night that he finally felt like he could leave. Like that the city, there were enough people with talent, with passion, with care for the community at the same level. He felt like every person on the council at this moment, along with the mayor, was like he felt good about leaving.
Yeah.
You know, and he said something he said, I went and got the paperwork to like to sign up. And he said, I didn't even feel like I needed to go get signatures. It was just like, I could quit and I think things would be okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So
he's in
that
Ward
made me
3.
feel really
That
good.
is good.
Yeah.
That is good. We'll have to get him on here before the end of his term because I really appreciate the work he's done and his like level-headed approach to things. It's very logical and rational and I appreciate that.
You may see several of us on the finance committee if you watch those meetings.
Crying.
Practicing.
Praying.
I make a motion. We'll be putting our foot in our mouths over the next
That's great.
6 months or so. So
All right.
Yeah.
Well, it's been fun,
Yeah.
Nathan.
Yeah.
I think we'll be back next week, right?
Yes, hopefully.
The next week, I think I'm going to be gone.
Okay.
Taking my ass to Vegas.
You going? Oh, wow. We're going to Vegas. My wife and I at the
When?
end of this month.
Me too.
Yeah, we're.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
I'm taking my son to go
Okay.
to Meow Wolf.
It's our 10-year anniversary,
Aw.
so we're going for our 10-year anniversary.
Well, we will not hang out then while we're there.
I mean, if we're there at the same time, we can go to.
Yeah, we'll chat about
They
it.
have this really cool playground for like not children.
Area 15.
Maybe.
That's where we're going.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty stoked about it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
So come to Vegas.
Yes. Sass and the Beard takes on
We're
Vegas.
preparing
yeah.
for what Las Vegas may be like.
That's right.
All right, thank you guys so much. Sorry for the technical difficulties. You should be able to watch this, even though the live was kind of messed up. It does record and it will post later. We appreciate all that you do for us. Check out Plant Parlor, one of our sponsors, Retro Roast and Dog Gear Books. We're so thankful for them, and we'll see you guys next week.
Woo!